I'm going to let you know which areas could still see some heavy rain for the week ahead and others that may not see a drop. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here with you at Meteo Mundo on this Sunday. Hope you've been having a great weekend. Coming up, we're going to talk about some of the areas that have been inundated in rain and trying to get some dry weather for those areas. I'm talking about Hispaniola and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, amongst others. And some of you very desperate for some showers to cool things off, to help with some fire conditions. We'll look at some of the drier spots as well. Thank you so much for clicking the like button. And if you've been looking for your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home here at Meteo Mundo. Thank you so much for clicking that subscribe button right now. We'll get you started, friends, on this Sunday afternoon. The live look to what's happening. This is your enhanced satellite imagery. We've got our live lightning data here. And again, we're looking at lightning strikes in real time and current temperatures on this Sunday afternoon. A couple of things to note from this wide perspective. Big cluster of storms near Bermuda and areas off towards the south. Huge storms going on right now in the south central United States, but it is a quieter afternoon across most of the Caribbean and the Bahamas. Now, there's still going to be some storms developing, and I'm going to highlight that. We're going to start off with temperatures because, again, a lot of you in the comments section, and drop a comment, let me know what it's been like in your area, have been talking about very hot and very dry conditions in your area. It really has been feast or famine, as I put in the thumbnail. Either you've had a ton of rain lately, too much, or you've been exceptionally dry and you're excruciatingly hot, and it's also causing some problems even with some fire issues. And we're going to start off with that, with what's happening right now in the Bahamas. It's another beautiful day, but we're dry again. And one of our friends in the Abaco area mentioned the wildfire threat going on across the island. Look, the Northwest Bahamas is under this short-term drought watch. We have not had a lot of rain in a long time, and the wildfire threat will continue. So be very cautious and take the precautions to avoid starting any fires. But again, that threat is going to stay elevated for our friends in Grand Bahama and Abaco and New Providence and Andros and Eleuthera and Walker's Key and just other areas of the Bahamas in general as we've been dry. And I think we're going to continue to stay dry. Now, again, lovely day, temperatures in the 80s. Freeport is actually dry back down to 82 degrees. It's been hot in the Cayman Islands, right around 90. Jamaica, Kingston has jumped above 90 degrees. Negril, 88. We'll talk about the chance for some showers and storms there. We've had a couple of isolated storms in portions of the Dominican Republic, especially towards Punta Cana. Temperatures there, again, you can see dropping a little bit because of that. It's been a hot day, but it has been drier in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Obviously, discount the 43. That doesn't count, but San Juan's up to 93. And look, there's going to be some rain in this area. We have a few showers right now, but nothing extremely heavy. Look at the temperatures across the Lesser Antilles. I mean, we're now well into the lower 90s. We're driving deep into, the lower 30 degrees Celsius for daytime highs through a lot of these areas, especially from Martinique off towards the south. It's been another hot, relatively dry day in Trinidad and Tobago. An isolated shower or storm is possible there, and we'll highlight that. Hot in the ABC Islands, our friends in Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao in the lower 90s with dry weather. And then off towards Central America and the Yucatan, where it continues to be exceptionally hot. A lot of areas well into the upper 90s. Some spots who tune in are into the triple digits, including San Ignacio again. They're in inland Belize, where they've topped off today at around 104, and it could get even hotter before the day is out. We'll talk about a breeze coming up there as well. So that's I wanted to highlight the temperatures because a lot of you have jumped in the last couple of videos and just mentioned how hot and dry it is. Now, we're going to take a look at the forecast to see if we can get some of these areas more rain, but at this point in time, it is still relatively dry. Obviously, too, the winds play a factor in trying to push around some of the drier conditions and the brush threat. Thankfully for the Bahamas, it's breezy, but we don't have exceptional winds there. As a matter of fact, as I always look, there's really no marine issues here across our entire area right now. That's some good news. It's breezy from time to time down in the ABC Islands. You see that little 32 there pop up for a brief time. So some gusty winds there, but nothing very sustained. So let's take a look at what's going to be happening with the rainfall here. I'm going to throw on our water vapor imagery. The red areas are your drier areas. We've dried out a bit, especially with that surface trough now pushing up to the north to the east. That's part of what's combined with this mid-latitude cyclone to the north to throw in some heavier showers and storms there. But it's just been a drier day. Now, again, here in the Dominican Republic, a few isolated showers and storms have developed over places like La Romana and Punta Cana on the far eastern sides of the island. Another storm trying to develop near Samana, but it's much more isolated today. Still could see a shower or storm ramp up in this area for the remainder of the late afternoon, early evening, but the chance overall is much more in the 20 to 30% range rather than the heftier totals that we've had, the higher numbers. Now look, it's the same scenario through the U.S., the British Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. We need to get drier air and weather in this location, and we're doing so today. Now again, is it completely dry? No. When I put on the live radar out of southeast Puerto Rico, there are still some showers here. No lightning out of any of this. That's good news, but we have had some heftier rain develop right over San Juan and Bayamon and Guaynabo, just to the west of Carolina. All of this is kind of slowly drifting off towards the east, and so there's been some additional showers there. We've had some heavier rain develop near San Sebastian there, and just to the south of Aguadilla and north and east of Mayaguez. So some interior rain, and some of that is on the heavier side. And look, if it sticks around in one location for long enough time, it could prompt some flash flood advisories or even a flash flood warning. Just as wet as it's been, it's not going to take much to do so. So please check in with the National Weather Service out of San Juan. They will issue the advisories or the warnings for Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Again, at this point in time, recording this mid-afternoon on Sunday, there's none of those advisories or warnings in place. But again, we still do have some heavier rain developing there. We've also had some passing showers across the eastern islands, and again, the U.S. Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands. Much more spotty there, but there's been some rain passing over St. Thomas and St. John for today, Tortola as well. St. Croix, an isolated shower, but generally speaking, we've been dry. My friends in this location let us know how we're doing on this Sunday, but again, in general, we are trying to dry things out here. Not completely dry, but we're trying to alleviate the flood threat, if nothing else. Back over to the enhanced satellite imagery. I'm actually going to put on the visible satellite imagery here, and we'll take a look at the rest of the forecast across the islands. Again, in the here and now, we're relatively dry from Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, Ceiba, St. Eustatius, on over towards Guadalupe and Dominica, with an isolated passing shower in your forecast, but nothing that's going to be very organized or that's going to be situated in your area for very long. Again, we still have some Saharan dust coming into play for the Eastern Caribbean, and I'm going to talk about that coming up as well. Now, where are we seeing a little lightning strike? How about Trinidad? Look at this one little lightning strike on the northern side of the island. So we've at least had a couple of passing showers on the north side of Trinidad, places like Grenada and Tobago, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, all with a very isolated chance. But again, many dry hours and locations, and it's been hot down here too. We're talking about, some areas of Trinidad and Tobago, 33, 34 degrees Celsius for daytime highs. It's quite steamy indeed. ABC Islands, after the rain earlier in the week, have begun to dry back out. We've talked about the breezy conditions there. When I throw back on the enhanced satellite imagery, I do want to note again what's happening in the Southwest Caribbean. Now, there were a blow-up of thunderstorms earlier today just north of Panama, but again, those have weakened. Of course, I always take a look at any tropical potential here, but again, the wind fields aren't very conducive to that. I do and will highlight what could be our first Eastern Pacific system coming up, but you notice that things are a little bit calmer overall, even on the Pacific side here of Panama and Costa Rica, and it has just been exceptionally hot and dry for the Yucatan and most of Central America, even the Grand Cayman area as well. It just continues to be a dry and then breezy forecast coming up, and we're going to highlight that. But that's kind of what's happening right now in the here and now. Again, still some spotty showers for the Dominican Republic and Haiti, some spotty showers for portions of Puerto Rico. For my friends in Jamaica, again, a brief shower is possible as your winds roll in and push in some cloud coverage from west to east, but I do not expect a lot of rain in Jamaica over the next several days as well. And if you've heard me say that about most of the locations, that's the forecast, guys. In general, we're going to be drying out for a lot of us most of this week. Now, what is one factor that comes into play? Let's take a look at the Saharan dust layer. This is the wide shot. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen, that is West Africa. We have another injection of Saharan dust moving right through the Atlantic Basin. That's what we call the MDR, the main development region. So anything tropical that would try and get going in the Atlantic Basin is going to be suppressed by that next injection of Saharan dust. And so this is the forecast starting today over the next 10 days. So as we get into next weekend, you see another plume moving back in, but it's been hazy, and the Saharan dust layer really isn't going to completely go away through the Lesser Antilles over the next 10 days. I mean, there is some Saharan dust right now. This is an up-close view of the Caribbean and the Bahamas. And again, you can just see those purples, and certainly as you get into the oranges here, those are the higher concentrations of Saharan dust. Now, it dissipates before it gets into the Lesser Antilles, but it does stick around. And you notice that the current here is going to push this through the Yucatan and then drive it through the Gulf of Mexico and right back over portions of Florida and the Bahamas. So even our northern areas are going to get into at least a thinner layer of Saharan dust. But this continues to be a factor in how things are going to be playing out here over the next 7 to 10 days with another shot of Saharan dust coming back in. So unfortunately, again, some of the areas that really do need some more rain are going to be suppressed to see that opportunity because of the Saharan dust layer coming back in. So let's break down the rainfall forecast here over the next 5 days as I set up the model. I thank you again so much for liking this video. Of course, you have a question about the forecast, all you got to do is drop it in the comment section below. Love to hear from everyone where you are and what the weather's been like. And again, if you've been looking for your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found it. Click that subscribe button right now. I appreciate you. So we're going to take a look at our model here over the next 5 days. Going to throw on the timeline. You see that on the top left-hand side of your screen. Couple of notes here. We're done with our surface trough and that tropical moisture situated over the greater Antilles. So we're getting rid of the flooding threat for Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, and any other areas that had some spotty or heavy rain, like the northern side of the Leeward Islands as well. General scattered showers are possible, but nothing that's going to be nearly as concentrated as what we've seen. I want to even get broader here real quickly and show you again that as the Saharan dust layer moves in, notice that this region here, this main development region, Atlantic Basin, remains dry. There are some storms off to the south, as there always are in the lower latitudes, but they stay suppressed on the southern side. So someone was asking about some of the moisture coming back in from the mainland to help places like Trinidad and Tobago out. It's kind of the wind field is in the wrong direction to see a big slug of that moisture coming from the mainland north. What's going to be happening is it's going to be pushing towards the west, even south of the southwest Caribbean, and now we start to see a concentration of moisture develop in the eastern Pacific, and this could potentially be the first development tropically in the eastern Pacific. It's something I'll be monitoring late in the week, but you can see the rain out of that. And if I switch over to the wind field real quickly and put that into motion, just to kind of top off what I was talking about, this system here in the Pacific, you'll see that as we get towards the very end of the forecast here, towards the end of the week, watch just a little bit of a wind field developing here, right there at the end of that right there. That's where I would be watching for the first potential development. I mentioned very heavy winds over portions of Central America and Mexico. There could be some very, very strong winds into play here near Roatan and coastal Belize and Guatemala. Of course, we're talking about Honduras on up towards Cancun and Cozumel. Could be some very strong winds by the end of the week. I'll be monitoring that as well. Again, these would be straight winds. At this point in time, doesn't look to be anything spinning or tropical, but when you're getting up to the reds on our map here, you're talking about some winds that could be of 40 miles an hour. So I did want to highlight that. And again, you can see that's some really strong wind that's going to be potentially coming into the Northwest Caribbean. So, and again, the timeline of this is going to be very late in the week, but you can just see some of that developing. And I've mentioned this in many other videos here. There's a lot of wind energy in the western Gulf of Mexico that's been kind of just situated around this area. It hasn't turned into anything yet. But again, as of note, those will be a couple of areas that I'll be monitoring as far as the winds go. And then in general, we still have our easterlies here. We haven't had the wind shift change yet. We still have our easterlies that'll be driving through the Caribbean. So that's the winds. And again, highlighting the Northwest Caribbean for some potentially stronger winds. And we'll talk much more about that through our videos as we go through the week. All right, I want to get back over to the rain. And then I'm going to loop this up here again over the next 5 days. So again, we'll start off in the areas that have been wet and too wet. And so for the Dominican Republic, isolated showers are going to be in your forecast. There's going to be nothing very concentrated, okay? I can't say it's going to be completely dry, but as I let this model run out over the next 5 days, certainly drier than what we've had been. So an isolated shower or a storm, it's a 20 to at best 30% chance each and every afternoon. It means it's going to get steamier outside. It's going to get hotter for Puerto Plata and Santiago de los Caballeros on over towards Santo Domingo. But you get the idea that we need drier weather here, and it's beginning to return. A few isolated showers for our friends in the Turks and Caicos later in the week. Not very concerning. Not going to be a lot. For Puerto Rico, again, we could still see some showers crop up, all right? Look, it's not going to be completely dry, but what we really need is more dry hours to get some of these water levels down, to dry out some of the soil. And you see that. Again, there's just nothing very concentrated, nothing popping up every day. So today, it's a 50% chance. Starting on our Monday through the rest of the week, I've got it at best 30%, all right? So now we're getting more dry hours. We're getting more dry locations. This is true as well for Vieques and Culebra and St. Croix and St. Thomas and St. John and the Tortola area, Road Town. All of these areas, drier weather moving in. Same situation for the Leeward Islands as well. Anguilla, Antigua, and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Bartholomew, St. Martin, Sable, St. Eustatius. Few spotty showers. You're going to feel the heat, by the way. And obviously, again, there's going to be some haze in the sky, especially by midweek. An isolated spotty shower, we still have our easterlies coming in, is absolutely possible throughout the island chain. Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, all associated with this. Don't expect the total to add up to much, though. I'm talking about maybe even less than 10 millimeters. And we're going to look at the 7-day rainfall. And you guys might be shocked about what we're going to be looking at here when I show you these 7-day rainfall totals. Again, even down towards St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, and Trinidad and Tobago, it's relatively dry. There's just not a lot of rain in the forecast, guys. The bottom line is, if you've been looking for drier weather, you're going to get it. If you've been looking for more rain, generally speaking, that's not in the forecast. We're actually going to have a pretty dry week across our area. And honestly, when I look at the extended, that might be the last week I say that for quite some time. I think there's a big pattern change coming up as we get to the second half of May. And again, much more on that coming up through the week as well. But in the shorter term, over the next 5 days, if you catch a shower in the ABC Islands, that's not bad. Even the activity in the Southwest Caribbean isn't very concentrated, and it's not very widespread. All that energy pushes off towards the south and west, where again we see our potential first flare up here of a tropical disturbance, if nothing else, in the eastern Pacific. If nothing else, is a very large area of showers and storms, and something I'll closely keep an eye on. Could still provide some storms along the western coastline of Central America, but you get towards the Caribbean coastline, and that drier air is still into play. Now, I want to note, okay, that when you're looking at the reflectivity, the rain with the wind, guess what you don't see? You don't see rain with that 40, 45 mile an hour wind here in the Northwest Caribbean. The same date, the 16th here, you don't see it. So again, even though there's a lot of wind, there's not a lot of rain that goes along with that. So we'll be talking mainly about wind coming into the Northwest Caribbean. And as far as trying to get some showers for some of the areas that desperately need it here in the Bahamas, well, again, we'll have another front coming in and really a few injections of storm systems through Florida. When could we see a couple of showers in the area? Well, I think it's possible a few times during the week. Here we can see a couple of spotty showers on Tuesday. We might try and run into another shower towards the end of the week as well, Thursday, Friday. But again, is there anything that I can pinpoint and say, yeah, Marsh Harbor's definitely going to get some rain now? No. Just enough moisture to get close enough with a few spotty showers. This can be a very dry month in the Bahamas, because a lot of these storms stay more west to east rather than dropping off towards the south. And you can see that here with this model over the next 5 days for the Bahamas. Again, it could be very stormy in the United States Southeast, but we just don't get the push anymore with these cold fronts and these mid-latitude cyclones. They basically move right off the coastline and they move up to the north very, very quickly. So again, we can dry out a bit in these locations. As far as your rainfall totals over the next 7 days, I'm going to take myself off camera. I want you to look at the majority of our area. First of all, you see a lot of white. That's no rain. You see a lot of gray. That's less than 2.5 millimeters of rain. Okay? Now, what about anyone else? Again, you don't see a lot more rain out there for most areas. We could maybe get to 15 millimeters in some spots, and look at all the heavier rain in the South Pacific. Now, again, there could be an injection of some potentially decent rainfall for the far northwest Bahamas. I think it's very conditional, but it's certainly an opportunity as well. Before we get back, I want to swing back over to my friends in Jamaica. You know, I'm not going to leave you guys out, but I did want to highlight again that we are going to be drying out here, relatively speaking, over the next 5 days. There's just, again, with the Saharan dust coming in, there's just not a lot of moisture to play with here. So it's very spotty showers here, guys. I'll monitor the situation, but it's not going to shock me in Jamaica if you don't get a drop of rain over the week ahead. There will be a few showers, but I'm telling you, there's going to be some of you coming back in here Friday and saying, Rusty, I haven't had a drop of rain since last weekend. Unfortunately, I think that is how it's going to play out in most spots. And again, just to highlight this map, look at that big old swath of drier air. Where's the Saharan dust coming in? Same situation in these areas. Very wet off to our south. All the storms in the United States generally stay up to the north. That's how I see the next 5 to 7 days playing out. But a few things we have to continue to discuss through the week, including all of that wind in the Western Caribbean, and then we'll talk about some temperatures as well. Friends, you know you can find us through all social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. Got an email address, mymediamundo@gmail.com. You want to send me a picture or a video, any business inquiries, you can do it there. I'm happy to answer any questions. Drop it in the comments section below while you're there. Thank you for liking the video. And if you have not become a subscriber yet, click that subscribe button right now. Have a great rest of your Sunday. I will see you tomorrow, friends. Have a great one. I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.